Hey guys, Tiffany Ofili Porter here, where I discuss all things life after sport. You see Melissa here in the video, so you already know what's about to happen. This is going to be another installation in the Loctician Speaks series, where my sister Loctician is going to come and we're going to talk all things Sisterlocks. In this particular video, we're going to go over the pros and cons of combining your Sisterlocks. Now, if you don't even know what that means, or you don't even know why somebody would even entertain that conversation, then this is the video for you. So if that sounds interesting, make sure you continue to watch.
Motherhood with medals on her chest. She's proven her greatness, knows no rest, representing the countries with pride she stands.
So like I mentioned in the introduction, this is a series where we talk all things Sisterlocks. This is like 11th or 12th video in the series. So for those of you who don't know or who are new to this channel, what are Sisterlocks? The Sisterlocks essentially are an interlocking hairstyle where you have a certified loctician like my friend here, Melissa, and they essentially create locks in your hair in a very specific grid pattern that has to kind of, you know, fall into the stipulations of what constitutes Sisterlocks. And I'll put like an official definition, I guess, from the website for you to read, but just refer to those previous videos to kind of get caught up on everything Sisterlocks from this channel. But in this video, we're going to talk about what it means to combine your locks, the pros and cons of doing so, and why someone would even consider. So have you ever wondered if combining your Sisterlocks would ruin or rescue your hair? Let's go ahead and talk about it in this video. So Melissa, you have experience with having combined your locks firsthand, right?
Yes, I did do it.
Can you talk a little bit about what brought you to that decision and kind of why you did it and kind of how you feel now, like 2 months in? Has it been 2 months or like a little bit longer than that?
Well, it's probably maybe about 3.
Okay.
You know, I'm going like every 6 weeks now. So
Okay.
probably about 3.
Okay.
About 3.5. But what made me decide is, for one, I do want to have bigger locks. So I want them to be a little bit bigger than the size that they are now. And then 2, it also is starting to cut back on the time that it takes for me to actually get my reties. So those are what kind of prompted me to doing it.
So for someone who doesn't even know what it means to combine locks, can you kind of go over what that is just in general for somebody who's new here?
Yep. And I can kind of just give an example on your head. I won't actually do it, but I'll just show what that means.
Okay.
So when we're talking about combining them, we kind of wait for your roots to grow out some. So we want to have usually about 2 to 3 inches of hair to work with. And we will literally take 2 locks. And instead of just retightening one, we retighten them together, which actually combines them. So we would take 2 locks that we would combine together. So they're only going to be combined at this root. All of this up here stays in its 2 strands like it is.
And then eventually the goal is for that base to thicken up, right?
The base will thicken up, and then not only does it thicken up, then as it starts growing out, you can cut off that Y, because you're going to have that Y from that second lock. You can cut that off at any time. And then if you have other spots in your head, because some people have that where they're dealing with breakage from whatever reason, you can take that lock that you cut off and have them attach it to where you need it to be.
Yes. So just as an aside, I've done videos before on reattaching your lock. So make sure if your lock ever falls out, whether that be because of your postpartum hair shedding or if you just have thinning, never throw them away, because there is a way to repair them. I'll go ahead and link that video for you to check out. But like Melissa said, you can always retouch them for whatever reason. So always keep that in mind. But so for you, Melissa, have you ever sat down and counted the number of locks that you have?
No.
Okay.
And I was going to actually say there's kind of like 2 reasons that kind of popped up in my head. So, you know, sometimes people go through like which I did and had my full head combined. And then like you, because I even noticed when I started doing your hair, sometimes people combine them for repair. So you might have a lock that has a really small base and it's about to break off. So your loctician combined it with that lock that's next to it to help strengthen it.
Yep.
So you can use it to help, you know, to strengthen your base, or if you just want to combine your locks for a thicker look.
Yeah. So she has like experienced firsthand what it looks like, but in your experience, Melissa, you can't even really tell that you combined them.
Because even looking at my head, even though, because like I said, it'll probably take a few years before I can actually notice it. But down in there, you'll see that there's some that are combined, and then they'll have that little split.
Would you mind actually taking one out? Yep, I would immediately. Oh, wow. Okay, so let's come a little bit closer real quick to show them. So you see here how her base is thicker than both of these 2 locks combined, and her hair, that's about probably like 3 inches of new growth, and you can't even tell. Like when she has in the ponytail, you can't tell. And eventually, like she mentioned, she'll be able to cut this off and she'll have that thicker base as a leftover from the combination of the locks. So it's funny because Melissa and I, right before we started recording, talked about how moving forward, I'm probably going to start combining my locks at my next appointment. She's gonna do it for me. And by the way, I've gotten a few DMs of people asking if Melissa is taking clients. So Melissa, do you want to kind of address that real quick? We're in the Kansas City metropolitan area, so go ahead and let them know, because people ask me.
Like, I don't mind like doing it for like a temporary purpose. Like if you can't find your loctician to do it for a while, but on a permanent basis, because I do have so much going on, I can't accept clients full time.
Fair enough. So like keep that in mind. So like she said, if you're looking for somebody to just kind of bridge you over while you kind of find your permanent replacement, yes, she's taking temporary clients, but something to just kind of keep in mind if you are looking for a loctician in the KC metropolitan area. So yeah, she and I talked about combining my locks, and I would do it not necessarily because of repair, because you know my locks, as Melissa has told me, are in great condition, but this 5.5 to 7 hour retightening for me personally is something that I would love to kind of bypass. So that's why I would do it, to decrease on the amount of time for my maintenance appointments. Now that's a perfect segue.
You have a whole family.
Right, a family and lots of responsibilities. So that's a good segue into some of the benefits or the pros of getting your locks combined. And we talked about less time for maintenance. So Melissa, you said before you combined your locks, you were kind of at like 3 hours.
3 hours.
Which to me, that would still be a dream compared to my 6 hours, if I'm being honest.
Right.
And then after your combination is decreased back down to like 2 hours.
Yep,
right?
I'm back down to 2. Yep.
So even if I could go from like my 6.5 hours to maybe down to like 3 or 4, that's still 2 hours that I'm going to be able to save. And honestly, as you see, her hair is full and beautiful and healthy and thriving, and it hasn't changed the look of her locks in the long run. So if I can get the same look and the same benefits of Sisterlocks, but still kind of decrease on that maintenance time, that to me is a win-win. So that is something that I'm going to do. And I think I'm going to take you guys along for the ride for that. Maybe we'll start, you know, either a continuation of this Loctician Speaks series, or maybe we might even just start like a combining locks journey, so you can kind of see from the inception of me doing it and kind of how it progresses with time. But another thing that she already mentioned about how combining locks can be for like repair purposes. So a lot of people who are having thinning locks or breakage or like holes, you can do that to kind of prevent further issues, right?
Because I had to do that for my mom because her hair is so fine. And so these heavy locks, especially as her hair has gotten longer, it's pulling on it. So to combine them gave her a stronger base.
Now, did you combine her whole head?
No.
Okay, so you just did it in certain sections.
That were weak, yep.
And I can't remember what you and I landed on from my head, Melissa. Are we going to do the whole head, or are we going to do sections?
We can do the whole head.
Okay.
So if that's what you're wanting to do, we can do your whole head.
Yeah.
And then my only recommendation is, if you're talking about combining locks and you're wanting your whole head, is to make sure that you actually go to somebody who knows what they're doing. Because like I said, telling Tiffany, I want to make sure you keep your grid pattern, because I know you like to style your hair.
Yes.
So I have to make sure that I actually, when I'm doing it, I'm paying attention and that she's keeping those lines that give her styles.
Yes.
So make sure if you're doing that you choose the right person. Ask questions, ask for references.
Yes.
Ask to see their work.
I could have said it better myself, because there might be some people out there who might tell you, yeah, I can combine locks,
and just take your money.
And just take your money, and then you're left with a messed up grid pattern, which we've talked about it before in videos past, that a big part of the integrity of Sisterlocks is having that grid pattern. That is literally kind of the basis of what separates Sisterlocks as a trademarked brand from just regular micro locks that don't necessarily follow that uniform grid pattern.
Right.
So that is one thing that I trust Melissa to do when she's combining my locks, to maintain that grid pattern and allow me to still be able to style my hair in all of those different ways. So another pro of combining the locks is that because that base is thicker, you kind of end up with stronger locks in the long run. So it does reduce that breakage, and it can reduce that thinning, especially in those very vulnerable areas, right, Melissa?
That's correct.
Yeah, so maybe sometimes people might even consider leaving the back of their head uncombined, maybe just doing those vulnerable areas so you can kind of have the best of both worlds. And when you do it with somebody who knows what they're doing, they will still maintain that grid pattern at the same time. We talked about the quicker retightenings and then lower maintenance stress. So I've also talked about in this series some of the cons of Sisterlocks and the things to consider when you have Sisterlocks for an extended period of time. And one of those is that those maintenance or those retightening appointments can get kind of cumbersome. It can get expensive, and if you're not willing to commit to doing them every 4 to 6 weeks, and Sisterlocks are just not for you.
Not for you.
So somebody who may be tight on their schedule and they can't really commit to a 7-hour retightening every 4 to 6 weeks, if you have a sister loctician who can go and combine your locks, then you might be able to get away with 3 hours every 4 to 6 weeks. And that might not necessarily sound like a lot, but practically that does make a difference, and those hours do add up over time. So I think that is something that's for me, that's actually literally the only driving force as to why I'm going to combine my locks, because I love the fullness, I love the look, I love all of the benefits of Sisterlocks. But for me, honestly, if I'm being 100% with y'all, the biggest con is the amount of time that it takes me to have my retightening appointment. So if I can get rid of that, maybe you won't be able to tell me nothing. And then another pro to doing it is just your personal style preference. Some people genuinely like the look of larger locks. So, I mean, you might have started off your journey thinking Sisterlocks are for me, this is what I want. And then after time, you might just change your mind.
That was me. And I'm only gonna say for styling, because they are so tiny, I can't put, you know how people like to wear the jewelry in there? I want to wear the jewelry. So that was part of my reason for also getting them larger.
Yes.
And so I can start putting jewelry and stuff in my hair, because it gets buried in there with these tiny locks.
Right. And actually, I've never really thought about that as a reason why I would do it, but that's a benefit.
That was another one I thought,
And just to be able to kind of just like spruce it up. And again, you still have all the benefits of locks, but you just have maybe a little bit more versatility. But definitely something that I'm excited about. Now, did you guys do your training for the Sisterlocks consulting classes? Do you guys get taught how to combine locks, or is this kind of like...
they teach you how to repair.
Okay.
They do.
Okay, so pretty much any certified loctician or certified trainee should know how to do it. So I've mentioned it before in previous videos. Make sure you head to
one of yours.
One of my combined ones, you see? Yeah, she found one. And you can't even tell. And actually, I'm at the point now where I probably could cut this off and reattach it if I ever have some more postpartum shedding. I just had my third baby. If you didn't see my pregnancy, labor and delivery videos, make sure you check those out as well. But with my first 2 babies, I did have quite a bit of postpartum hair shedding around the perimeter of my head. So I always keep my locks for repairs in the future. But yeah, I mean, just that personal style preference is something to consider. If you just want a little bit more versatility with thicker locks, then maybe that could be a big pro that can lead you to combine your locks in the future. Now, with every pro, you got to have some cons, right? Let's go ahead and talk about those as well. Number one, you kind of already alluded to it, but the loss of that original grid pattern can be a big con if you're not diligent about choosing your loctician. And that can affect the neat Sisterlocks look. Most people, when they get Sisterlocks, they're getting them for that uniformity, right? They want to have that grid pattern, to have it look uniform and natural and all of the things that we talk about with Sisterlocks. But when you're combining locks, if you're not intentional about having the right person do it, or if that person just is not paying attention, you can lose that neat uniformity that we associate with Sisterlocks.
Right.
And then we've talked about it before that technically, if you completely compromise that grid pattern, you no longer have Sisterlocks.
Which they probably wouldn't, maybe because the way she combined mine, they may not consider mine to be Sisterlocks no more.
Not that that's a big
but I don't care.
Exactly. Most people at this stage don't even really care.
At this point.
Because it's like, look at how beautiful her hair is. At the end of the day, the ends justify the means. So I'm not even necessarily contributing about that. But some people are really big on the branding, right? And for them, they're like, they might be Sisterlocks purists. Where it's like, no, if anything's going to compromise the grid or just the integrity of my brand of Sisterlocks, I don't want to do it. And if that's you, then don't get them done. Because that is something that you could run into the risk of occurring if you're just not careful on the front end. And then number two, for the most part, I'm going to put a little bit of an asterisk by this one, that they can be considered irreversible once you combine them, right?
Yes.
Because it's really hard to separate once they're combined. You kind of saw how the base turns into one. If you want to go and undo that, the only way to do it is to like try to comb out the lock. But again, the whole point of Sisterlocks is that they're meant to be a permanent hairstyle. So you kind of already have that going on anyway with Sisterlocks. And when you're combining them, if you decide, that you want to do it on a whim and you don't do your research, just taking them down and uncombining them can be a whole thing. So definitely keep that in mind as a con. If it's something that you just are kind of on the fence about, that it can be considered irreversible for sure. And then another thing, Melissa, as I'm sure you've probably thought about in your journey, is that uneven thickness. That, if you're not doing it properly, you might have some locks that are super thin in certain areas, super thick in certain areas, and then it doesn't have that neat look. Have you noticed any of those in your head, or no? Since your loctician,
not at this point.
Yeah, her loctician is amazing. Like, she actually mentored her. She trusts her with her locks, obviously.
She does.
And
she's a cosmetologist.
So she's like double certified, which I love. It gives you that peace of mind knowing that she knows what she's doing. But certainly keep that in mind, that, in addition to maybe losing that grid pattern, you could also have different size locks, and that might not necessarily be the look that you're going for. Some people like that kind of, natural, like not perfect type of look, but most people who have Sisterlocks like the uniformity. And then also, again, if it's not done properly, you can have lumps or bulges where those locks are joined. So how she said it was a Y, where you have that base. At this point where it meets, you could potentially, if it's not done properly with is it a 3-point rotation or 4-point rotation?
Well, it depends on what you need. So remember, everybody's hair is different.
Okay, that's true.
So they'll keep with whatever rotation you're needing for your hair type.
Okay. But if they don't, or if they don't know what they're doing, you can have bulges at that point where it turns into the Y. Is kind of my understanding about it, if it's not combined properly. And I guess you kind of already shared about your experience with having them combined. So far, are you loving it?
Yeah, I don't notice it, to be honest, until I put my fingers in my head. But another one that could also be a con is that this is a process, so it's going to take a long time before I even see it. So if you're wanting your locks to be thick now, then you might want to take your locks out and just restart them over. My loctician has done that many times to get larger locks.
On her own head,
On
right?
her own head.
Yeah.
Took our locks. She had Sisterlocks, took them down because she wanted them bigger. They still wasn't big enough, so she took them down again because she wanted them immediately. She didn't want to wait.
Yeah. And when you say took them down, did she cut her hair or did she just
No, she
comb them
just
out?
she combed them out.
Really? Were they like established for years or was she like
So she had her Sisterlocks before I did the first time.
wow. Imagine,
And then she's done it twice since I've had mine for 8 years, and she's done it twice.
imagine the patience that you have to comb out every
All that hair.
single lock. I don't have that type of patience. I would just cut my hair off.
And then she also likes that starter look for her. She's like, I love it in the beginning.
Really?
I know, that is so odd.
Speaking of like that awkward stage, that was another video that we recently, and I think that was the most recent Sisterlocks Tiffany Speaks video. We talked about the awkward stage, and most people, myself included, hate that stage, but from the sounds of it, her loctician likes it. Right? I can't relate, but hey.
At all.
Is her hair like super long, so maybe her awkward stage is not as awkward as some people.
She has short. She likes that short look.
Wow,
Yeah.
hey, everybody is different. Just a testament to how, even though we all have Sisterlocks, we are still very different in our journeys and our desires and our wants. That is very interesting. So we kind of talked about it, but just as a summary, some tips for you if you are considering combining your locks is to, number one, first and foremost, do your research, right? By you watching this video, you're doing just that, so shout out to you. But you definitely want to consult a trained Sisterlocks consultant first. Melissa mentioned how, for the most part, they are all trained in how to do it, but I'm sure there's some locticians who might not feel comfortable doing so. So, I mean, that's something to consider to speak to your loctician about, if that's a service that they offer, if they're willing to work with you on that, and if not, just find someone who can, fulfill that desire for you, because it is a big deal. You want to maintain the integrity of your locks. You spent all this time and money invested into them, so you want to make sure that they continue to be as beautiful as you want them to be. So another tip that you could do, Melissa and I kind of talked about this before we hit record, was that you can start with a few combining locks in less visible areas before committing to your whole head. So she mentioned before how sometimes people can use the combining of locks for repairing. Sometimes they can use it for, in my case and in her case, wanting to decrease your retightening appointment length time. But if it's something that you're kind of on the fence about and you kind of want to just see how it's going to go before you make the commitment, do it in the back or in the middle where you can't tell anyway.
Exactly.
Where, and that's something that I probably would do, but at this point I'm committed to it. Let's just go. We're going to do the whole head and we're going to get it done. We're going to start at the next retightening. If I would have thought about it, we may have even done it today, but obviously we're halfway through this retightening, so it's too late for that. And then another tip is that you can keep a photo record to track how it's settling. Because sometimes if you do, kind of like we mentioned, start in those less visible areas, you might not be able to see the back of your head and you might not realize kind of how it's progressing, but taking videos to track the progress or taking photos to track the progress can certainly be very helpful. Have you ever done that, Melissa, or are you like at this
No,
point?
I haven't.
Yeah.
One of them ones I don't care. Let's go.
Exactly.
Let it do what it's gonna
That's
do.
how I am. I am so ready to, at this next appointment, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to text Melissa before the next appointment to remind her, like, remember, at this one, we are going to combine these locks and we're going to start this process because I'm ready at this point.
And we're gonna push your appointment out 2 weeks though, because I want 8 weeks worth of growth.
Now, that is something that she did mention. I mentioned how the recommendation is to get your Sisterlocks retightened every 4 to 6 weeks. But with the combination of locks, you want to have enough new growth where she's able to do it and it gives you like more space to work with.
Getting more space to work with so I can actually see what I'm doing.
Okay, so that's going to change kind of, because we kind of set our appointments up in advance. It's going to kind of change our appointments, but it's worth it. Like once we do that first initial combination, it's just going to be
back to your normal
back
routine.
to your normal routine. So definitely all of these things are tips to do it. And just in general, whether you're combining your locks or you're not, maintaining your healthy scalp and hair practices to prevent issues is always just going to be a good tip for Sisterlocks in general. So
all locks.
Yeah, exactly. So if you suffer from really dry scalp, figuring out some really light oils to kind of help to alleviate some of that. If you suffer from dandruff and maybe you didn't have that during your consultation, but you're having it during your locks, would you recommend like a clarifying shampoo or just talk to your specific loctician?
You can talk to your loctician and ask them for recommendations, but I know that rose water, that helps. And then me, because I'm a nurse, I believe in hydrating from the inside out, especially because it's summertime. So eating those foods, like eat your water. So talking about watermelons and, and tomatoes and cucumbers, they're all high contents of water. So hydrate from the inside out. And
that's just going to be good advice no matter what. It's never a bad thing to make sure that you're prioritizing hydration. But yes, in conclusion, some key takeaways is that combining your Sisterlocks isn't a good thing or a bad thing. It's about what's right for you, your hair, and your lifestyle. So whereas the Tiffany of maybe 4 years ago, it's no big deal if I sit for 7 hours for retightings. I have all the time in the world. But now with 3 kids, a business, a husband, and all these things I have going on, I would prefer to be closer to that like 3.5, 4 hours versus 7 hours for my retightening. So you know, even within the same person, my lifestyle has shifted and my desires have changed. So take for that what you will. Whatever works for you is kind of what is going to make sense if you are to move forward with combining your locks. And I would love to know down in the comments if you've ever considered combining your locks, or if it's something that you was never even on your radar, you didn't realize it was even an option. And hopefully this video was useful. Is there anything else you want to add, Melissa, before we close this video out?
Not that I can think of.
All right, let me know if you guys want us to kind of go into more detail about this. We can certainly make it, like, you know, we can definitely flesh the video out even more. But like I mentioned, the next retightening, fingers crossed, I'll be able to kind of take you guys along during that retightening on the actual combination of my locks. But thank you so much, guys, for watching. Make sure you check out the playlist of all of my Sisterlocks videos. Huge shout out to Melissa for being a part of this video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.